Good evening, and welcome to the 2023 Cedar Falls Municipal Debate, sponsored by Northern Iowa Student Government in partnership with Women of Action, Cedar Valley Activate, and the Cedar Falls Waterloo branch of the American Association of University Women. I want to thank our moderators, Jamie Winfro, and Associate Professor of Political Science at the University of Northern Iowa, and Andy Malone, reporter at the Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier, for their time in conducting a civil debate for the city of Cedar Falls. I also like to thank the city of Cedar Falls for allowing us to use the City Hall chambers for the debate, and to Cedar Falls Utility for broadcasting the debate live. The timekeeper for tonight's debate is Trina Tunjan. The timekeeper will prize candidates when they have 15 seconds left of their allotted time, and a red-colored stop sign will be displayed to apprise candidates their time has expired. Due to the limited time we have allocated for tonight's debate, we will ask all candidates to not exceed their allotted time period. As the saying goes, less is more. Should a candidate go beyond their time period, the moderators and the timekeeper have the debate sponsor's permission to interrupt him or her, move on to the next question, or rebuttal, debate, discussion opportunity. And if necessary, penalize the candidate's time the next time she or he responds to a question. All questions you will see asked tonight have been asked by residents of Cedar Falls. Sponsor representatives have been assigned to review all questions submitted by the residents and have given moderators the questions to ask. Minor modifications of questions by a moderator to improve clarity has been permitted. Each of our city council candidates for this portion will be allotted 90 seconds for their opening remark, 1 minute for their closing statement, and will be asked to keep all responses to the debate questions at 60 seconds or less. With our condensed schedule, less is more. Each of our mayoral candidates will be permitted to give a 2-minute introductory statement, a 1-minute closing statement, and their response to debate questions are to be 60 seconds or less. And again, less is more. Should any candidate want to make a rebuttal comment, she or he will be limited to 30 seconds to make their case. Moderators have the permission to stop the rebuttal commentary if they feel the issue has sufficiently been aired. Moderators should also take turn asking the questions. Each of the Cedar Falls residents seeking public office have been provided with the debate protocol and debate schedule prior to this event. We also ask that any audience members please refrain from making any loud noises like whooping and hollering while the candidates are speaking. Up today for our first portion of the debate is Ward 2. We will be introducing Chris Latta. Take it away. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chris Latta, and I'm running for Ward 2. I've been a lifelong Cedar Valley resident. I've lived here my entire life and graduated from Cedar Falls in 2003. Often been asked why I'm running, and if you ask my kids who are watching tonight, I've got a 9-year-old and twin 8-year-olds, it's because I want to be on YouTube. So, Colton Jackson Rhett, we did it. Okay, in all seriousness, I love this community, and my wife and I made a very intentional decision to move here when we had kids, and I have no desire to live anywhere else. And I think it's the decisions we make now that are going to make that decision super easy for my kids when they get to make that age. And I think it's very, very important that we make every decision here within the city council with the citizens in mind and with the thoughtfulness in mind. So that's why I'm running. Thank you. Also, thank you to the Northern Iowa Student Government for hosting the event.
Thank you, Chris. First question. Ward 2, with its margins on the south and west edges of town, has seen enormous growth and change in the last decades. What problems has this rapid growth created, and what would you do to address the collateral issues that this growth has generated? You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. I am a Ward 2 resident, as you know, and I live right near Aldrich School right now. I can tell you that I am relieved to hear that there is now a plan to alleviate some of the traffic issues we have in that area. It is frightening to have kids that are going to school, and I will tell you, it gets pretty competitive in the pickup line, especially in the wintertime. It pretty well starts on my block and extends the entire way to the school. I really think we need to get that traffic situation figured out and figured out quickly. Also, I'm kind of relieved to see that We've had some amendments to the site plan within that neighborhood that we're going to see, in addition to the multifamily housing, some additional single housing as well. I think it's great to have that mix. Certainly the development in the far west side of that ward has been substantial, but it is time to look at some of our traffic flow through there. Additionally, we've got some great neighborhoods throughout that entire ward that when they were constructed, they were very lovely. There's some street improvements that need to occur, especially in the Green Hill Village area, and that's something I've heard a lot in door to door.
The industrial park has been a large part of the growth in Ward 2. What is your attitude regarding city-provided incentives for businesses to locate or develop in Cedar Falls?
I think it's wonderful that we already have a thriving industrial park, and that expansion is going to be amazing for this community. Ultimately, that's tax dollars that are going to be on the books for us in perpetuity. I think that's wonderful. I think we need to do everything we can to attract as many different companies as we can. It was exciting to hear that we have companies even from abroad right now that are considering coming to Cedar Falls, Iowa. That's amazing testament to our community, and I think that's great. That being said, with all the growth we have in industrial park, we need to address the housing situation because all those folks need somewhere to live. We've heard time and time again, especially through the housing study, that we have a real affordable housing issue, and we just have lots that aren't able to be developed at this point. So we need to work on that as well. But I think it's very exciting that people see the potential in Cedar Falls. I think we need to do everything we can to continue that. I think it's imperative for our growth.
And along those same lines, we had a question also regarding economic development. How do you define the roles, city staff, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the council when it comes to the approval of development projects?
Well, I think we have a very knowledgeable city staff, and we're very blessed by that. Our Planning and Zoning Committee does a wonderful job as well. So I think it's our job as a council to take the advice that they give us. They are the content experts, and evaluate that at its merits. That doesn't mean we can't ask questions. We should ask questions. We don't rubber stamp anything. That being said, we also don't want to be a deterrent to developers and to economic growth within this community. I fear that we could begin to develop that reputation, which is not something that's going to be behoove of us moving forward in the years to come. So I think it's important that we do evaluate all the information, but I also think it's our job to be partners with developers, with business community, to ensure that growth occurs in Cedar Falls and not elsewhere.
And do you think there should be other organizations that are involved in that?
Absolutely. I think it's great that we already have a standing relationship with the CFEDC, with Grow Cedar Valley, just to name a few, and I think that's wonderful. And I think those relationships are very important. Ultimately, community makes us stronger. Relationships make us stronger. I'm a relational person. There's not a single person here that I won't sit down and have a conversation with. There's always common ground and understanding that we can gain from each other. So I think having those relationships, having the content experts, and having the people that are able to make those networking connections on behalf of the city and advance our causes forward, it's a wonderful thing.
We have a follow-up question in that same kind of subject area from the people at the Rooted Carrot Co-op Market. The success of a full-line grocery store in the downtown district will hinge on collaboration and creativity at the city staff and commission council levels. Are you willing to provide the extra time and energy to these kinds of conversations in order to see this project through to a win-win for all?
You know, I think our downtown is the envy of about anyone in the state of Iowa, maybe even in the U.S., right? This is your picture-perfect downtown, but there is one thing missing, and there's not grocery down here. So we need to figure out a way that we can make that happen. I think that we can have thoughtful conversations with invested parties and see what we can do within the confines of where our code allows now. And if we need to make amendments to that, that's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's something we need to evaluate for the reasonableness on a case-by-case basis. But I do think that is one downside to this downtown, is that's not there for the growing number of residents that are here. When I think of myself in my young 20s, gosh, if I could have afforded to live down here, I would have loved it, right? These are not the college rentals that I lived in growing up. So I think we can do to continue to attract not only that age group, but your young professionals, your Deere folks, your Viking pumps, whoever it may be. I think we need to do that, and I think a grocery would be a great way to do it.
Of course, when we're talking about Cedar Falls, a big piece of it's the University of Northern Iowa, and they're one of our largest employers. Cedar Falls serves as the host city, and so how do you view that relationship between the city and UNI, and what would you do to enhance that relationship?
Absolutely. You know, our city is not the same when University of Northern Iowa is not here. It feels empty. Our young college students bring so much to this community, and I think sometimes that's an afterthought. I think it's great that we already have a student liaison on city council for us. I think that's a wonderful start, but I don't think that should be where it ends. I think we need to make every effort we can to engage with our students. They live in our community, they work in our community, they spend money in our community. We don't want them here for 4 years. We want them here moving forward. You know, we've seen what happened during COVID when University of Northern Iowa's enrollment was down. Our restaurants were short-staffed. They were not running at full hours. They were not running at full capacity. And we're just now kind of starting to come out of that, which is great. But we need more. And we need to give those students the reason to feel engaged. And we also need to understand what's important to them. So I think it's, again, great that we have a liaison, but I think we need to spend more time understanding the intentional needs of those students.
On that same note, in 1991, UNI's enrollment was over 14,000 students. This year, we have just over 9,000. We tipped up over 9,000 for the first time in several years this year, which was very good news.
Absolutely.
But like you were talking about, the economic market of having fewer students here affects the rental market, the job pool, all of those things. What do you think that the city should or could even do to help encourage larger enrollment numbers at UNI through your role with the city?
Sure. Again, I think it comes back to understanding what entices students to live in Cedar Falls, what draws them here and what keeps them here, I think is really important. Also, I can't tell you enough how thankful I am that UNI started a nursing program. Having worked in the hospital setting, I can tell you that that is a win for the Cedar Valley. I do think that will help with enrollment as well as getting people employed within our community. There is no shortage of healthcare jobs anywhere within this community, be it hospital setting, long-term care, the like. So I think that's an exciting opportunity for the University of Northern Iowa. That said, I do think we need to understand how we can partner further with those UNI students, what's going to keep them here, what is it that they're looking for. I think we have a really good understanding of what our long living here citizens are looking for and need from our city. I don't know that we have that same understanding with a college campus. So I think spending some additional time with that, whether that's through the liaison, whether that's having an outreach group with UNI would be wonderful, but I do think that that effort needs to be something that we champion here in the next number of years.
To follow up on that, UNI has been here in some form since the 1800s. Why do you think there is that disconnect? Like, why haven't we figured that out by now?
You know, that's a really great question. Having lived here my entire life, I guess I haven't felt at any time that there wasn't an elected official who wouldn't at least hear me out on an issue. So I don't know where that shift happened, where either UNI students don't feel that they can come and pose a question to either council, staff, whoever that may be, or whether it's just not become a priority for us. But I really think the makeup of this council, as it changes moving forward, it provides us with a really unique opportunity to engage those individuals, maybe in a way that we haven't done in the past. And ultimately, there's only benefit that can come from that. I think not having a full understanding allows us to make a lot of assumptions, and I think it allows students to make a lot of assumptions in turn about the city. So finding that common ground, I think, would be amazing moving forward, and I'm happy to help champion that cause.
Of course, one piece of the local property tax bill is based on what the city does. So, of course, that's one of the questions we received. How do you view fiscal management of taxpayer funds? How do you think the city has done responsibly managing its resources?
You know, I don't think anybody's thrilled anytime property taxes are up, right? But here's the deal. If we don't invest within our community with development, it won't matter. Your property taxes won't go up, you're right. But our community is not going to grow. I look at what we're doing even with the pool. It's going to be an amazing opportunity. We're going to be able to host statewide athletic events in Cedar Falls, Iowa, not at the Dome, in our own community school district. That's going to bring hundreds, thousands of people to Cedar Falls, to Waterloo. They're going to spend money in our restaurants. They're going to stay in our hotels. They're going to visit our stores, our merchants, our everyone. Did that all come at a cost? Sure. But we also need to look at return on investment for some of those costs. So yes, I do think there's always going to be the naysayers that say, oh, boy, I don't like this because it's going to cost me this. But I also challenge you to think for the future generations to come, the immediate and future impact we may have.
How do you distinguish between spending as an expense and spending as an investment?
Well, I was told we don't have a budget, so we don't have anything to worry about, right? We can just freewheeling spend. No, that's not the case. Everyone has a budget, and we've all seen in the last number of years how much a budget has to evolve with the cost of anything anymore, and inflation has been a real factor. So I do think we have to be very judicious in the way we go out to get our RFPs now, and we need to really look at our bids, and we need to hold ourselves to, as best we can, this was the dollar amount we were told was going to cost, and we need to do our best we can to commit to getting that cost. I understand that there are some times where there are uncontrollables, and that's why we have a contingency, but I think we really need to be mindful of the way we're spending our dollars, because nothing is going to get cheaper. Ultimately, we do owe it to our citizens to be responsible in the way we're spending our money, but I also think we need to be strategic in the way that we spend our money and understand, again, sometimes money spent brings money back later.
Of course, I'm always after specifics, and we had a specific question. Do you see anything currently being spent on that you would view as unnecessary?
I don't know that I would necessarily say that I would see that as unnecessary. I would say right now, I think we can all agree, boy, there's a lot of construction in Cedar Falls. It's difficult to get anywhere right now. My route has changed to work over to Waterloo at least 3 times in the last 6 months. I do think at the end of this, that'll be really wonderful. I do think it was a pretty extensive project that we've had undertaking. Now, admittedly, when we look at Main Street, we had sewer work that needed to be done there anyway. So if we're going to do it, let's do it. But I don't see any money where we've gone and I've just said, boy, that was just a waste. The money we've spent in our downtown, the money we continue to spend, whether it's looking at College Hill or the like, I do think that it's going to bring itself back full fold in an investment that we can all be proud of.
Speaking of great big projects, even though it's not in Ward 2, your vote could impact actions surrounding the College Square Mall. How do you view the situation with the College Square Mall, and what would you do to revitalize or repurpose the mall?
Boy, that's been a really common question as I've talked to people here in the community. That mall was vibrant at one point in time, and then it stopped being vibrant. We've had any number of stores that were end caps of that maybe helped to assist to bring that on as we developed further out towards the target area now. Some of that has gone away. It's very sad to see all the amazing progress we've made to make University Avenue drivable again, and now there's nothing to drive to. So I really hope we are engaging with developers and the owners of that property now to say, hey, what can we do? I don't know if that's housing. I don't know. We've been promised any number of different things over the years of things that could turn into, but we need to do something before it just becomes an even bigger eyesore. We should be so proud of that corridor and all the work we've done to make that accessible to everyone. Now we need something for them to access.
The Cedar Falls Economic Development Corporation was kind of on the front lines when it came to the mall, but we actually had another question relative to the housing needs assessment that they sponsored. If you did look at the report, how did you interpret the results? What do you think the city could do or act on to, rectify any gaps maybe when it comes to housing? I know you kind of touched on it already.
Sure, yeah, it was pretty alarming to see when you look at their study just how much the cost of a new home has gone up. I think that in 2021, I believe was when that study was looking at the sales of houses, and I believe it was somewhere around the line of $425,000 for a new construction house in Cedar Falls. That's not affordable for so many people in this community. So we really do need to look at how can we make affordable housing available to everyone. And that's not only by new development, that's also infill. We need to consider how do we can make people able to afford Cedar Falls and not make that a barrier for anyone. We want this community to be thriving, we want it to be diverse, and that doesn't come in one socioeconomic class. So it's important for us that we do take those studies very seriously, engage our local developers, engage community stakeholders to figure out how do we act on what the information we have is.
I know we kind of started off the conversation by talking about Holdridge Elementary School.
Sure.
Just pertaining to housing still, how do you view housing density? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think we've got pockets where it's getting developed very, very quickly, and it is becoming more and more dense, but the problem is we've got areas that are not receiving the attention maybe that they need. And so I think we run the risk of some of those homes in those neighborhoods either A, becoming just rental upon rental, which is not a pleaser for anyone, or we've got housing that is lovely, but maybe not affordable for anyone. And so I think it goes both ways. That Aldrich neighborhood, I live in that neighborhood, and that when I was growing up in high school was a cornfield. Okay, so I recognize how quickly that area has developed and continues to develop, and I've benefited from that. That being said, prior to living there, I lived right over by Southdale, and that was a wonderful neighborhood. But I can tell you that the prices of the houses in that neighborhood are not sitting at $425,000. So we have an issue. There's a big disparity and gap.
Considering we have a university with 9,000 students in it, don't we need rentals?
We absolutely need rentals, but what we don't want is to have rentals and rentals only, or we need rentals that are maintained and maintained well by the property owner. You shouldn't be able to go drive through a neighborhood and say, that's a rental, that's a citizen, that's a rental, that's a citizen. So I do think there's some ownership on the city then as well to make sure that code enforcement is handled the way it's supposed to be, and make sure our landlords are partners with the city. Yes, we absolutely need rental properties, but we want them to be properties that we can all be proud of.
Moving on to another topic, the public safety officer model, overlapping fire and police responsibilities, has been underway since 2015. How do you feel things are going there? How would you, I guess, ensure the efficacy of that department? And would you perform any evaluations?
I think evaluations of any department are warranted, acceptable, and expected. That being said, I will go on record and say I am a fan of our public safety model. I think our public safety model works. I have the utmost faith in Director Birdie and Chiefs Howard and Zlondek. I think they do a wonderful job. And I think it's unfortunate that there's been time and time again so many questions about our men and women that are here to serve and protect us. They do a wonderful job. It's okay to evaluate any program. We should evaluate any program. And I think we can do a better job maybe of providing education back to our citizens to answer some of those questions. But I would also encourage any of you, if you have questions, ask them. Do a ride-along. Go to the public safety building. I've never once gone there and felt, ooh, they don't want to answer this question, or they don't want me to be here. I will call any of those men and women, and they will give me a straight answer. And I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there about what we already have.
A lot of the criticism during that kind of 2015 time period about the change to that new model was about the communication. How do you think we could better communicate when things are going well? How could we, or how often should we be communicating that to the citizens so that they know when things are going well?
Absolutely. I think we need to celebrate our wins. We're quick to point fingers. We're not always, we're Iowa nice and we're very modest. We don't always celebrate the wins that we have. I think we need to do a better job of that. I also think it'd be beneficial to have the public safety department give us information on maybe a more regular cadence within city council meetings, whether that's in town hall sessions with the community, whatever it is. I love the fact that we have coffee with a cop now that gives the citizens an opportunity to go out and ask questions. I think it goes both ways. Yes, I think the public safety department or any department can do a better job of saying, hey, Cedar Falls, look at the great things we're doing here. And hey, Cedar Falls, here's some things we've noticed that we can improve on. I think it's both. But I think on the flip side of that, the city of Cedar Falls and the citizens need to show the willingness to listen to that information and then trust that the information that they're being given is valid.
Are you currently satisfied with the current structure when it comes to administration in the public safety department?
I am.
Okay. Why?
We have a lot of experience in that building. I had the opportunity to attend and speak with, both privately and in public. I'll use Chief Zlondek as an example. I can't fathom how a city of this size has managed to keep a candidate that was that qualified. It's amazing. You have someone that was a Marine, you have someone who was a renowned police officer, who is still looked to as a trainer, and here he is. I think that's great. I think we have fortunate that we have Craig Birdie, who has been with the department for years and years, and a wealth of knowledge there. I think the stability and the camaraderie that exists within that department is why this model works. I think we've finally gotten to a place where there's trust, there's mutual understanding, and now we just need to extend that out further so that we can address the concerns of the community.
Quality of life is an intangible concept when it comes to cities, but we all know that quality of life is a key concept for the appeal of any city. What aspect of Cedar Falls do you think is a quality of life success?
Boy, I'll tell you, there's nothing better than being downtown on a Friday night in the summer when we've got live music out there. Isn't it great? I'm telling you, I used this anecdote the other day when I was talking with the CFEDC on a forum. I can recall State Street being a one-way street that, if you remember, kind of curved up in the back of Cup of Joe, and then you could kind of take your life in your own hands if you so chose to get on First Street up to 58 and go, okay? That's not what that looks like now. That's amazing. What I'd like to see is not just have that be the only area that we truly, truly celebrate. There's so many other areas that we could develop and have that same thing happen. One of the cool things that happened during COVID is all these neighborhood block parties. We need to have more of that. I think anytime our community has the opportunity to come together in a social setting and put things aside is a wonderful thing. Cedar Falls is a great town. Everyone really does exemplify that Iowa nice. And I think those relationships are so important. Anytime we have an area where we can gather together, it's a win for the city.
Do you have any ideas on College Hill?
You know, I was asked that as well. I've got kids that are 9 and twins that are 8. I can't tell you, to be completely honest, the last time I took my kids to College Hill. We've walked through the campus. It's beautiful. We need to find ways to attract families like mine to College Hill. I'd love to see it, but my kids don't want to go to a vape shop. We need to find ways to really make College Hill the vibrant area that it should be. Our university is wonderful. I know we can do that on College Hill too. We've already taken some great steps to make that area more aesthetically pleasing. Now we need to find ways to bring families there.
I believe we're getting close to final statements, but we got a couple more questions that we're going to try to get through. So the Human Rights Commission has experienced a fragmented journey over the past few years. What role should the Human Rights Commission play as an official city commission? What issues should this commission be addressing in your mind?
It's been interesting to hear, maybe interesting is not the word, disturbing to hear some of the stories we're hearing at City Council as it relates to the Cedar Valley and its treatment of African Americans and the perception that exists there. I think there's one low-hanging fruit that we can start with, right? But we can't do that without a willingness to first understand. I think it's important that we have those conversations, as uncomfortable as they may be. And I think we have to have a willingness then to listen and evaluate, not be defensive, listen and evaluate. How do we learn from each other in that? I think the Human Rights Commission has an opportunity to do that, and I think we should take those opportunities seriously. And I really hope that our council moving forward is going to continue to listen first, to understand, and not be dismissive of those issues.
What are the top 3 things that you hope to influence should you be the representative for Ward 2?
You know, I like to come to this with an open mind. I don't have a set agenda that says, boy, by 6 months in, 1, 2, and 3, I'm here to learn, and I'm here to be part of this, part of an elected body that is representative of our citizens. I think it's important that we have unity within this council again. There are times that exists, there are times that doesn't, and there's the difference between healthy debate and healthy conflict, and when we can have a predictive 4-3 vote before the meeting starts based on an issue. So I promise to be someone that's going to unite, someone that's going to listen, and someone that's going to be representative of the city. I don't have an agenda. I don't want to have an agenda. My job is to represent Ward 2 the best I can.
Let me rephrase a tiny bit then. Was there something that tipped you over the edge in deciding to run?
I've watched these city council meetings for years. I'm a civics nerd. I absolutely love it. When Ward 2 was announced that it was going to be vacant, I was absolutely going to run. But I'll be honest, I was going to run whether Ward 2 was going to be vacant or not. I think it's so important to have a new voice within the council, not specific to Ward 2, not specific to any ward, not specific to the mayoral seat. I think it's important to get new ideas and new voices here. I think that's how we approach situations differently. I think that's how we bring in new schools of thought, and I think that's how we bring in a willingness to listen. I've already heard from citizens' concerns just through door knocking. I promise to be just as responsive to those concerns as councilman as I do candidate.
Just going back to what you said before in regards to unifying, how do you, in your mind, do that?
Again, I think it's seek first, understand. I'm a psych nurse by background, okay? So you can take your assumptions on how that may or may not benefit in city politics, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm someone who wants to listen, understand, and evaluate things on their merits. I don't like to come in with preconceived notions or ideas. I don't think that serves an elected body well. I think you have to ask thoughtful questions and spend time looking at information. That's not accomplished on a Monday night starting at 5:30. That's accomplished leading up to it. That's accomplished by asking our knowledgeable city staff, whoever our future mayor may be, our city administrator, thoughtful questions so that when we get to this, we're able to say, I know what I'm talking about, I'm comfortable with this, and if someone on this side or this side doesn't agree, I'm able to explain my side while I'm also able to listen to theirs. I think that's really important.
All right, you have 1 minute to give some closing remarks.
Thank you again to Northern Iowa Student Government for hosting this event tonight. When I was told I was going to debate myself, I really wondered how this might go, but I hope we can agree we did okay. Ultimately, Cedar Falls is just a wonderful place, guys. It's so important that we have an elected body that puts that vision and that passion first before anything else. We have it now. It's going to get better, even more so in November. I look forward to earning your vote. I look forward to meeting those of you that I haven't. Please reach out to me. I have a Facebook page out there, my email, my phone number, all of it is out there on the election site. Please reach out. It's only through us having those relationships that I can fully represent you to the best of my abilities. Thank you.